pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin, as usual, with a moment of silence, and as we do, if you could keep in your mind and hearts the family of Richard Avery, former DPW superintendent in Whitman, who passed away recently. His wake is on Thursday night from 4 to 7 at Blanchard's. The meeting is being recorded and televised by WHCA. Could I have a motion to approve bill and payroll warrants?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And a motion to accept correspondence in the read file?
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Public forum. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda? Approval of meeting minutes, open session, October 22nd, 2024.
So moved.
Is there a
Second. And just a quick comment. I'm going to email Erica. Someone's name is spelled wrong. One of the guests.
Oh, really?
So as long as we amend that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
As amended then, right?
As amended.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And tonight we were going to have a meeting, a joint meeting, or they thought we were going to have, with the Finance Committee. However, because of some kind of follow-up, we're not able to have it. The Finance Committee apparently needed to post it officially on with their agenda, and we did it with our agenda. I didn't notice that there would be anything wrong with it. I thought that since we had a meeting posted and they had asked us to have the meeting and we were posting it, that there wouldn't be an issue. But according to those who know better than I, we can't have a legal joint meeting with them tonight. So what we're going to do instead is at that meeting we were going to ask Mary Beth and Sean to give us a budget update, so we could try to get some things out there in the public and the public view as early as we possibly could. And I think that was probably what the Finance Committee wanted to do anyway. We'll have a joint meeting with the Finance Committee when we can figure out how to schedule it. And but for the meantime, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Sean for his budget update.
You want to do that now?
That'll be good. We'll do it. We're going to move it out of order. It's under new business. It was added to new business actually, and but we'll do it. We'll do it now.
Pass that on to Laura.
Right, this is actually for the fiscal year 2026, which sounds funny to say it out loud, but just so everybody remembers, it can be kind of confusing. On January 30th, just 5 months ago, June 30th, just like 5 months ago, that was the end of fiscal 24. We're now in fiscal 25, about 5 or 6 months into fiscal 25, and we're talking about fiscal 26, which will start next July 1. I like this because it just brings us back to like best practice guidance from the Department of Local Services about the budget process. So just at the beginning of the budget process, it says the annual budget is a community's primary policy statement and establishes the priorities of the government. The most effective budget process follows a formal calendar that begins in the fall of each year with the revenue and expenditure projection, also known as a financial forecast. And that's what this is tonight, a financial forecast about the revenue projection and an expenditure projection. And then what we'll have is a joint meeting, ideally with the Finance Committee, and have the schools involved so that we can get on the same page about those projections and decide how we can move forward on the same page. When we look at our revenue projection, what we do is we first look at our current levy. So we know what that number is, $31,919,000. That's our current levy. That's known. We can then add 2.5%. So again, that's a known number. So that's about $800,000. So if we just take our current levy and we add our 2.5%, that's about $800,000. The next step is to add our projected new growth. This new growth, it says $200,000. That's low. It's lower than if we were to look at our 5-year average. Our 5-year average is over $400,000 actually. But the thing is, a couple of those years we had big projects that were really obvious. We knew that the new growth was going to be over $600,000, and it made sense. But this year, we don't have any big projects on the books, and based on the feedback that we get from the assessor's office, it really does make sense for that number to be as low as it is, $200,000. So that's relatively low for new growth. Again, for people at home who are watching, and just to remind people, people who are trying to pay attention, new growth pertains to new buildings that are going to be added to what we currently have. So if there's new houses going up or apartments that are going on, apartments. If you're going to renovate your house and it's going to get assessed at a much higher level, that all goes into new growth. So it's not the current value of houses as they are now and as they increase to next year. It's anything that new that comes on the rolls. So $200,000 for that. For step 3, we add excluded debt. I muted that a little bit just to emphasize that although that number is going to increase as far as revenue goes, it goes directly towards debt. So it's not any revenue that we can use towards the operating budget, but it's good to recognize what it is now. For step 4, we add local receipts. So local receipts this year, we've been getting better and better at projecting our local receipts. It's guided by financial policy, and Mary Beth has been working closely with really a high-level financial consultant that's really allowed us to be able to do this in a way that is reasonable, but also conservative. So at this point in the budget process, that number is relatively conservative. Usually as the months go by, say in January and February, as the first commitment comes out for excise tax, we can get some evidence so we know where those numbers are going to come in more realistically. But for now, that's relatively conservative. So that number will likely increase a little bit with time, but we're following our financial policy and the guidance from the financial consultant. So it's relatively conservative. And then we just offset any charges, that kind of stuff, the overlay abatements. And our bottom line there, total available funds is over $45 million. This is $800,000 above last year, where we were last year. So it's a little over $800,000 in new revenue that we can put towards the operating budget. Okay, and then when we switch to the expenditure side, Mary Beth put out a budget message to department heads, and it would be helpful for the Finance Committee and for us to remember kind of specifically what she put out and for the public to know. When they're preparing their budget, she asked that they include a 2.5% increase for all non-union employees without contracts, include the stated increase for those employees with contracts, include fiscal year 26 step raises due to union employees and otherwise level funded. So although it's 2.5%, include steps. So that means a 2.5% isn't really a 2.5% because people who get to certain years and milestones deserve more money. So we calculated that in. It's also very important to know that all 5 of our contracts are under negotiation this year. So we put in the 2.5 as a way for us just to run simulation for the budget, for the expenditure projection. But we don't know where those negotiations are going to land. So it's very important to understand. And then for expenses, we ask that they level fund, not level service, but level fund all expenses, which is a hard ask because obviously expenses go up each year. And then a couple important things to identify in the budget is the Plymouth County retirement is killing us. It's up 11% this year. That's over $300,000. That one line item is really something it's very difficult for us to account for in our budget. It's a huge number, over $300,000 going specifically towards retirement. There is an end date towards those big increases, hopefully 5 or 6 years from now, but that number seems to be it's not stable. They're still moving that number around based on, I guess, what the calculations and the actuaries are saying about retirement. So that specific number is killing us on the town side. Also, health insurance is at 7%, so that's $126,000. What we did for our simulation, we put in for the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, we put in 5%, but then we also added that $140,000 in meals tax. Our goal here was to look at what might be a level service simulation, roughly a level service simulation. Granted that all 5 of our unions do need to be negotiated, and actually the schools are negotiating their contracts, so you need to keep that present on your mind. But we're looking for a simulation that's roughly close to level service. So that's over $1 million for the school. South Shore Votech, actually, when Mary Beth spoke to Mr. Hickey, the superintendent at South Shore Votech, he said, actually, we should look to level fund South Shore Votech in fiscal year '26. I guess enrollment has kind of plateaued a little bit with Marshfield coming in, so there's some good news. Also with the fire department, with some retirees and some new guys coming in, it looked like they're projecting a little bit, actually a decrease a little bit in their all of the services. And then we have the solid waste. This is our trash. So trash increased this year, but the bill also increased to cover that. But it's good to note in Article 2, you'll see a 73, right now projected $73,000 increase there. And then also it's very important to recognize that we used $500,000 or $509,000 in free cash last year to fund the operating budget. That means we're starting automatically at a negative at about that same amount this year. So it got us out of trouble last year, but it set us up actually in a worse position this year. So that's negative $509,000 in the budget right off the top. When we get to the bottom line, and again, to remind everybody, the fiscal year '26 preliminary budget was based on the following: a salary increase of 2.5% plus any contractual steps. Final union salary increases will be determined through union negotiations, so we don't know that yet. And then expenses are primarily level funded, except for major known increases. So when we look at the bottom line, total revenue is just over $45,784,000. Total expenses are $47,514,000, which means we have a current deficit of $1.7 million. So the preliminary budget numbers indicate that an override is necessary to maintain level service. Remember that these are preliminary numbers. It's just a projection, but that's our best projection we can give right now, that we're at that deficit.
Sean, thank you. Does anyone have any questions or anything you'd like to say? Basically announcing that this year we can't avoid doing an override in order to pay for the services that we want to have.
That's right. We thought it would be best to get these numbers out now, let people kind of marinate and think about them, and then we can, over the next month or so, think about what the scope of the override would be and that kind of stuff, so the details.
Right.
Yeah.
And hopefully some of the estimates and details will be, have gone through the Finance Committee's discussions, and they'll be able to help us to decide how much of an override we need. That's the kind of advice I've been looking for the Finance Committee for a long time. Haven't really received it. I don't recall the Finance Committee ever really saying, we need to do an override next year or next year. It's been pretty clear for a long time that in order for us to have the things that we value paid, had the money spent on the things that we say that we value as a town, that we've needed an override for a while. It's been our job to keep taxes as low as we can, and we've done that. If you look at our comparison to other towns in the area, our taxes are low compared to theirs. However, for a while, even though we say in a survey to buttress the strategic plan, that we valued our schools, we valued our firemen, we valued our policemen, we valued our DPW. but there's never really been an inclination to pay for what we really say we value. And I think what I hear you saying is that what you'd like is to have the town start thinking about doing that.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is really,
Yeah, and we need the help of the finance committee as well.
yeah, Mrs. Ortina is chirping in my ear right now. I can hear her. You know, she kind of really set the stage last year at town meeting, and she was adamant about how the town really needs to look at this as a town-wide override.
Right.
So I feel like this is actually a continuation of their efforts from the finance committee at the town meeting. But yeah, it's pretty clear we need an override.
And when you say town-wide override, that means we're talking about all of the services in the town. We're not saying this is an override just for the fire department, an override just for the police department, an override just for the schools. You're saying,
Yeah.
by town-wide, you mean we need to look at it as far as the whole town is concerned.
I think so. I mean, we need to analyze it further, but from my analysis, yeah, that's the case.
Thank you. Dan?
Yeah, I agree. It sounds like we're going to end up asking for an override if the people want it. But on the other hand, if we ask for the override, we have to make sure that the departments understand, all the departments and the school systems, that this doesn't, it's not an open book, not an open wallet, that they still have to control their budget so that, you know, if we're suggesting, what, a $1.7 million override, to turn around and say, well, let's go for a $3 million override. You know, that's, you don't want to leave that door open. They need to control their budget, and the override that we need to get, look for, if in fact we end up needing one, it looks like we will, is not just a big pocketbook.
Yeah, and I think some of the strategy behind the override might go, you know, should it be a one-year override, or should you think like a 3-year override? You know, and I think given the current climate around debt and how we've already asked for debt exclusions, I think it's understood that people are going to be strapped. So we do need to be smart about how efficient we are. But the bottom line is, there's a services at stake. We're not talking about bells and whistles. This is into the bone now we're talking. So it's serious. Yeah.
Thank you, Sean.
Just.
Justin?
And I would just add that you kind of mentioned it, but we've kind of been in this holding pattern since about, 2018? We've been looking at probably soon we're going to need an override. We did the override evaluation committee that said probably in the next 5 years. Here we are about 6 years later. So we're right in the spot that we always thought we were going to be. I will say that at this point in the budget cycle for each of the last couple of years, we've been between a $1 and $2 million deficit looking at the next year. But the difference now is that we've made all the cuts. I don't know where else we can cut looking forward. We're already starting to eat into our free cash for the following years because we've been cutting down everything that used to get turned back. So it's starting to eat into our capital plan. And then we also use that free cash to balance the budget maybe, for the last 5 years. So it's been a consistent. We've been right on the cusp for a number of years, and this seems like it might be the time to really analyze what's it going to take to get us through. Maybe 3 years, maybe 5 years, maybe to the Plymouth County retirement obligation coming off the books in, what is it, like 8 years now? It's got moved out.
It was 2029. They pushed it out a year, but I wouldn't be
I think it's gonna keep
surprised if they
going,
pushed it out again.
And if I may again, just to let everybody know, Whitman is not alone. All the South Shore towns, I get the South Shore news online, and you have the Hinghams, the Situates, the Cohassets, the Hanovers. I mean, all of them are saying that this is the years have gotten tougher and tougher, and I'd say probably 80% of the South Shore is going to be probably looking for overrides. It's just not Whitman. It's just we're able to put it off for a long time and just kick the can down the road, but can's too heavy now.
The road is too short.
Right.
One reason to be optimistic, or one reason to be positive about this, is that Whitman, as a town, when there's been an issue, has almost always come forward to support it. Years ago, back in the 80s, when our kids were having trouble, the Whitman Counseling Center was started.
Yeah.
And the Whitman Counseling Center was funded partly by the town. The town said, our kids are in trouble, we need to fund that. When the parents of our children wanted them to enjoy non-mandated busing that the district wasn't going to pay for, our town came together and said, yeah, we'll pay for that. We'll pay for that. We have an instinct to do what's right about these things. And this is a tough pill to swallow, but I think we have it in us as a town to cut the pill in half maybe and take it in 2 doses, but to take care of it. I guess that exhausts the budget. Sean, thank you for the work.
Yeah, excellent, excellent.
Mary Beth and Kathy have spent tons of time on this over the last couple weeks, really, so thank those guys, for sure.
Hey, Chairman's report. Nothing. I have nothing to report. New business. Act on the request of Town Clerk Don Varley to appoint election workers for 2025 in accordance with the list provided, and to set the annual town election hours from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any discussion? You have the list of names. All those in favor?
Aye.
Act on the request of the American Red Cross to hold a blood drive in Town Hall, in the Town Hall Auditorium on Tuesday, December 31st, New Year's Day.
Really?
2024, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Really?
Act on the resignation of Michelle LaMattina from the position of member, Whitman Recreation Commission, effective January 1st, 2025.
I'd like to make that motion,
Is there a second?
Second.
and I'd like to say that I want to thank Michelle. She did a fantastic job, and I think it's the town's loss that she's not staying with the Recreation Commission. She did good, right? She, just outstanding. So with regret, I'm sorry that she's
We're accepting her
leaving.
resignation with
Yeah.
utmost regret. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Act to appoint Stephen Boyce to the Capital Committee, School Committee Rep, for the remainder of the 3-year term through June 30th, 2027, in order to fill an existing vacancy. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Appoint the town accountant, subject to successful negotiations. Mary Beth?
Yes, thank you. So I am pleased to inform you that we have offered the position of town accountant to Wendy Kavicki, and she has accepted to be our new town accountant pending successful negotiations this evening. Wendy earned her Bachelor of Arts in Management degree with a concentration in accounting from Curry College. Wendy actually grew up in Whitman and is very familiar with our town, and I just learned this evening she went to school with Chief Clancy. I didn't realize that.
She did what?
Went to school with Chief
Jim
Clancy.
Chief Clancy.
Oh. I think my daughter went to school with Chief Clancy, too. Chief Clancy gets around.
Wendy's professional experience illustrates and highlights her extensive knowledge in the accounting field, and we feel very fortunate to have her join our finance team on January 6th of 2025.
Okay, great. And we have an executive session after the regular meeting
do.
to negotiate.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. Next is set the January meeting schedule. I'm open to suggestions.
7th and 21st, does that work?
Sure.
Wait a
That
minute.
work for everybody?
January.
Wait a minute.
That would be 3 weeks from, we have the 24th, so that would be in 3 weeks.
Okay, the 7th and the 21st.
Right.
Should you check with the finance committee to see when they're available, or do you think Tuesdays in Jan?
I think that's probably when they start meeting weekly, right?
We can certainly check on either of those dates if you
Yeah.
set them, and then.
Yeah, if you could check to see when they want to reschedule the joint meeting.
Okay. And still set these dates, or do you want to wait?
No, we'll set these dates.
I think,
And make it one of those dates.
I think so. That's the plan.
So one of those meetings will probably start at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Old business, update, dog hearing. Now, I'm going to turn this over to Laura in her capacity as ACO. For the present time, she's shedding her select person duties. But she's going to give us an update on what happened after the dog hearing. She's met with the complainants and met with the owners of the dog, and they've come up with a solution that I think is going to sound really good to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes.
And you're reading from the written report?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm reading from a written report. I went out on, after the dog hearing, Joe and I, on December 5th, went out to the owners to see the house that Charlie, the 9-year-old mix, lives in, and to view the property. In going over the property, we learned some safety features that we could suggest, and they decided to go with the stabilizing wire running the property fence and to not use the dog door without knowledge of the gate being closed. On December 17th, we went back. I went back without Joe. He could not attend. He had attended prior. And I walked the property, and the fence is very secure. And I believe the owners will be responsible for keeping Charlie secure, and that the neighborhood is looking forward to that. So I hope they all have a nice and safe holiday. And everybody was very accommodating, and I'm glad to see that.
Okay, thank you. I'd like a motion to accept the report, and it's significant. The report does not say that we need to label the dog as either a nuisance or as a violent dog, and that the parties involved agree on the solution.
Yes.
I'll
there a
make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All,
I just think I'll abstain from it.
I think that would be a good idea. All those in favor?
Aye.
And any abstentions?
Abstain.
Thank you. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Town Administrator's Report.
Okay, I just have two quick things. Today, the Department of Revenue approved the fiscal year 2025 tax rate submitted by the town at $13.12 per 1,000 evaluations. And the temporary treasurer collector, Sharon Lopiccolo, is working with the assessor, Wendy Jones, to get the real estate and personal property billing files ready for printing and mailing by January 1st. So that is very good news today. And just one other item, I did not bring up the award.
I know it.
I'm sorry, but at the Old Colony Planning Council's annual summit held on December 4th, 2024, the town of Whitman received the 2024 Old Colony Planning Council Impact Award. This award was bestowed upon the town for its initiative and enthusiasm towards making a difference in our region. Whitman is currently working with Old Colony Planning Council on our open space and recreation plan. We've mentioned that at prior meetings, as well as the Brownfields project at the former Regal Shoe Factory parcel. A possible future project would be to begin working with Old Colony Planning Council on updating the town's master plan, which was last updated in 2004. And this would be contingent upon future funding from the state. And I have to say that Kathy Keefe has done tons of work on this, and when I came back that evening, she couldn't make the ceremony. I put the award and everything right on her desk and sent her a photo. So thank you, Kathy, for all your work.
Thank you.
Excuse me. Anything else? No, I have some.
Mr. Chairman, before we go into exec, I would just suggest we act to appoint Wendy Kavicki to the town accountant's position so that the cable company can go home. So we don't have to come back in open session to appoint her. I guess appoint contingent on successful negotiations, but
Okay. Say, make the appointment
yeah.
continue.
So I move that we appoint Wendy,
And if the
Wendy Kavicki.
negotiations really go south, then we'll have to take it back the next time.
So I make a motion to appoint Wendy Kavicki as the town accountant pending successful negotiations in about 5 minutes.
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
And
Yes.
if we're leaving now, can I just say I hope everybody has a nice holiday? Because I don't think we'll see them again until after the holiday.
Right, we won't. That's where I wore my red coat.
That's
Wear it once a year. Okay. We need to go into executive session. We won't be coming back, we'll be coming back into open session only to adjourn. Executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Exception 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel. And that non-union person is the town accountant. Motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
What is this?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes. And then,
This is on the backside of it.
okay, and then we're going to also have, after that, we're going to have an executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, 21A, Exception 7, to comply with or act under the authority of any general or special law or federal grant and aid requirements. What we're going to do is to review and approve executive session minutes from 8/11/20, 9/8/20, 9/22/20, 9/30/20, and 10/20/20. And that would be the end of our executive sessions. And
So
we'll make a
moved.
motion to go into that one, too.
Okay. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Yes, 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 yes.
Yes.
Okay. We are now in executive session.
Okay.